In 2009, I bought a house for £7.6 million, St. George's Hill, Surrey, one of the most prestigious private estates in England. 10 years later, I sold it for £5.4 million. That's a £2.2 million loss on the price alone. Add the £500,000 stamp duty disaster I covered in my last video and the estate agent commission on the way out, and the total damage was nearly £3 million. On a beautiful house in a great location, during a decade when almost every other asset went up. If I had put that £7.6 million into the S&P 500 instead, I would have had over £30 million by 2019. I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened, the mistake I made when selling, and why I do not longer believe in top-end real estate. I'm Georgi, this is The Efficient Life, where I share what financial industry knows but doesn't tell you. 2009, the financial crisis had just crushed asset prices everywhere. I bought a house on St. George's Hill for £7.6 million. If you've seen my previous video, you know that purchase came with a £500,000 stamp duty disaster attached. Link is in the description. But this video is about the house itself. At the time, the logic seemed obvious. Prime UK property, a gated estate 30 minutes from London, where music legends and Chelsea footballers lived. Limited supply, global demand. Everyone told me the same thing. Prime property always holds its value. It's a store of wealth. It's better than money in the bank. You've heard this too. Everyone has. And this was a serious house. 12,000 square feet, 7 bedrooms, indoor swimming pool, sauna, hammam, separate staff accommodation. Brand new. I was the first owner. For 7 years, my family lived in it. It was a genuinely beautiful home. Then 3.5 more years trying to sell it, including a year and a half rented out. And as an investment, it was one of the worst decisions I have ever made. In the spring of 2016, I decided to sell. And this is where I made another mistake. One I want you to learn from. I called one of the biggest prime property agencies, the one selling the big houses on St. George's Hill. Their agent came, assessed the house, and told me to list it at £10.9 million. 10.9 million against my 7.6 million purchase price, a 3.3 million paper profit. Very flattering. Then I spoke to another agent, the one who had sold me the house in the first place. She knew the estate, she knew the market, she knew the buyers. She told me the opposite. Don't list it at 10.9 million, it's too much. List it under 10 million, ideally 8.9 million. The market is not good and it's not getting better. Developers are building new houses all over the state. Supply is increasing. Buyers have too much choice. Two professionals, two completely different opinions. Guess which one I listened to? The one with the bigger number. I listed it at 10.9 million and nothing happened. No offers, barely any viewings. Months passed. I cut the price, nothing. I cut it again, nothing. This went on for 3.5 years. 3.5 years of cutting, waiting, hoping. 3.5 years of the market telling me what I don't want to hear. In December 2019, I finally sold. £5.4 million. Nearly half of what I was told it was worth. £2.2 million less than I paid for it 10 years earlier. And from that 5.4 million, I paid 129,000 in commission to the estate agents. After 3.5 years of failure, the agents still got paid in full. Net in my pocket 5.27 million. And by the way, none of this is a story you have to take on trust. The purchase price and the sell price are public records. You can look the property up on Rightmove right now and see both numbers for yourself. Now, to be completely fair, for the last year and a half while it was on the market, I rented the house out. 25,000 a month, about 450,000 in total. That softened the blow. But 10 years of running a 12,000 square foot house, staff, maintenance, pool, gardens, insurance are far more than that. The rental income didn't change the outcome, it just made the bleeding slightly slower. So what went wrong? 3 things. First, I anchored to the flattering number. The first agency told me what I wanted to hear. The second agent told me the truth. The truth was less pleasant, so I ignored it. If I had listed it at 8.9 million in 2016, I believe I would have sold, perhaps quickly, instead of chase the market down for 3.5 years. And every price cut made the listing look more desperate. If this sounds familiar, it should. In my stamp duty video, my accountant told me what I wanted to hear, and it cost me 200,000 extra. Same pattern, different professional. The lesson: the advisor who flatters you is not the advisor who helps you. Second, the top end of the UK market generally turned, and on St. George's Hill it turned violently. Here is what happened, because this is the story about how markets destroy themselves. After I bought in 2009, prices went up sharply. International money poured in. Buyers were paying crazy prices, even for old houses. Mine was brand new. On paper, I looked like a genius. The developers saw this too. They started buying the old houses on the estate, knocking them down, building huge new mansions in their place, to sell at 12, 15, 20 million. Built on credit, all of them. And they built too many. Right as the supply flooded in, the market changed. Stamp duty on expensive homes was raised sharply in 2014. Buying a 10 million house suddenly meant hanging over more than 1 million in tax. Brexit uncertainty arrived. Foreign demand cooled. The new mansions sat unsold. Developers cut prices, then cut them again. Then the banks start repossessing, because those developers had built everything on credit. Repossessed mansions were dumped on the market as distressed sales, at whatever price they could get. So when I was trying to sell my house, I was competing with banks, offloading repossessed mansions around the corner. No private seller wins that fight. Third, and this is the big one, prime property is brutally illiquid. When a stock falls, you can sell it in 1 second on the market price. When a 10 million house falls, you cannot sell at all. There is no bid. You're still there, trapped, watching the value bleed, paying the running costs, cutting the price, waiting for one buyer to appear. I was trying to exit for 3.5 years. Remember that the next time someone tells you property is a safe store of wealth. Safety without liquidity is an illusion. Now let me show you the part that really hurts. What if in 2009 I had put that 7.6 million into other asset instead? These are approximate numbers, but the scale is what matters. I bought the house in November 2009, so the end of 2009 is a starting point for every comparison. The S&P 500. From the end of 2009 to the end of 2019, one of the greatest bull markets in history. The index went from roughly 1,100 to over 3,200. With dividends reinvested, about 3.5 times your money in dollar terms. But here is what most people forget. The pound collapsed against the dollar over that decade, from around 1.61 to around 1.33. So for a British investor, converting pounds in and pounds out, the real result was even bigger. 7.6 million pounds would have become over 30 million pounds. Instead, I had 5.4 million before commission. The gap between those two outcomes is roughly 25 million pounds. That is the real cost of that house. Not the 2.2 million I lost on the price. The 25 million I didn't make somewhere else. Gold. When I bought in late 2009, gold was around $1,200 an ounce. By December 2019, it was around $1,500, up roughly 27%. Add the pound's fall, and 7.6 million pounds in gold would have been worth around 11.5 million. Even the boring insurance asset beat the house by 6 million pounds. And here is the honest part. I wasn't ignorant of markets. This is my profession. I had money in equities through this entire period, and that money did very well. But the biggest single purchase I made in 2009 went into the one asset that lost money for a decade, while everything else multiplied. People ask me, do you hate real estate now? No, let me be precise, because this matters. I made money in US real estate before this. Real estate can work in the right market, at the right price point, at the right time. What I no longer believe in is top-end property as a store of value. The 5 million plus segment, the trophy assets, The houses people buy because prime London always goes up. Here is the problem with that segment. The pool of the buyers is tiny. The carrying costs are enormous. The taxes on entry are punishing. Governments targeted every time the net revenue. And when sentiment turns, there is no exit. A beautiful house is a wonderful thing to live in. I don't regret the years my family spent there. But I bought it believing it was also a great investment. It wasn't. It was a luxury. And luxuries cost money. They don't make money. If you want a home, buy a home, enjoy it, but know exactly what it is. And never let anyone tell you that an illiquid, heavily taxed, single asset in a tiny market of rich buyers is a safe store of wealth. I have almost 3 million of evidence that says otherwise. 2 videos, 1 house, a 500,000 stamp duty disaster on the way in, almost 3 million loss on the way out. If you haven't seen the stamp duty story, it's linked in the description. It explains how the whole thing started. The most expensive lessons are the ones nobody talks about. That's why I talk about them. If you found this useful, subscribe. And if you want to go deeper on how the wealthy actually structure their investments, the course waitlist is in the description. Early bird pricing for everyone on the list. I'm Georgi, this is The Efficient Life, where I share what the financial industry knows but doesn't tell you.